Surpassing all other true giants in the Ordning, storm giants lord over their giant kin, both literally and figuratively. Supreme sorcerers and future-seeing oracles, they live solitary lives, searching the realm for signs and omens of Annam All-Father's return. But what are they like in Therenor? Before we describe storm giants in our realm, let us first take a deeper look into the role they play in the Forgotten Realms. As mentioned before, storm giants are the highest giant kin in the Ordning, just below the All-Father himself. They stand at a massive 26 feet tall, their hair and skin ranging from pale greens to deep violets. They themselves can be found at the highest of the realm's mountain peaks or in its deepest trenches, as they're biologically adapted to breathe both air and water. Storm giants wore tunics and sandals, but would prefer to wear scale mail if they needed to armor themselves. Much like cloud giants, storm giants had a high affinity for both rune casting and sorcery. Impervious to lightning and thunder, they were capable of casting spells like Call Lightning, Control Winds, Levitate, and Water Breathing. Storm giants were even capable of creating their own bolts of lightning, hurling them distances of up to 500 feet. And of course, just like all giants, they were able to throw boulders, though this was an unappealing option given their other abilities. Some oceanic storm giants were also capable of cursing or forming pacts with humanoids, transforming them into sea spawn. For storm giants, interacting with the other mortals of the realm was important, as climbing the Ordning involved performing acts of good, the most virtuous of storm giants known as the Paramount. Many storm giants, however, were isolationists, living alone or briefly in family units to raise young in castles on top of mountains, within the clouds, or underneath the ocean. Their primary concern was to search for signs, anything that hinted towards the giant race regaining favor with their progenitor, Annam All-Father. This was a task they were completely enveloped in, gazing far off into the future more so than observing the present. Lack of progress in this pursuit, however, only added fuel to their explosively swingy tempers, which raged like storms. Giants may accidentally damage or destroy smallfolk towns in fits of rage, only to attempt to make it up with sacks of gold and treasure after the fact. Despite being the highest in the Ordning, the Forgotten Realms in 5e doesn't go into much detail with storm giants, which is a shame given just how important they are to the Ordning and how all other giants are clamoring for that top spot. My biggest gripe with storm giants, and quite a couple of D&D's other creature designs, is just how basic and uninspired they can be at times. So we really wanted our storm giants to push through what you might even consider to be a giant, even when compared to Therenor's already established ones. I really like how storm giants are able to generate lightning, and I think having the deepest connection to their deity among all the giants is really cool, so we definitely want to bring some of that to Therenor. Before we get into Therenor's storm giants, it would help by describing the region they can be found in, the shallows of the realm's seas. Therenor's coasts are wide and varied depending on the part of the realm you reside in, though they all share their similarities. Many of its shorelines featuring sheer sea cliffs, arches, and stacks, a millennia of pounding waves and storms eating away at the beach and exposing layers of rock. The water of the realm is turbulent and fierce, crashing waves in the deep ocean breaking all ships that dare traverse it. Because of this, naval travel in Therenor occurs exclusively in the shallows, following intricately charted paths and taking advantage of natural coves and barriers that minimize wave impact. With how active the waves are in Therenor, its beaches are fine-grained but fleeting, wave action eroding large sections at a time, leading to rapidly changing sand dunes in the shallows. Therenor's coastal oceans harbor a stunning variety of ocean life, from inch-long guppies to 30-foot leviathans, and many smallfolk make a hearty living off fishing its waters. Fish in the realm is a prized resource, with towns and cities further inland willing to pay a premium to have catches exported directly to them in carriages imbued with freezing runes to prevent spoiling. Powerful alchemical regions are also found off Therenor's coasts, wizards and spellcasters plotting months in advance to be the first to claim them, as we will discuss later. With how dependent much of smallfolk life is on the ocean, so little is known, only a fraction of the realm's seas have calm enough waters for travel, and virtually none of the seafloor has been mapped and explored. This leads many to speculate as to what creatures lie in Therenor's deeper waters, and whether it's truly impossible to navigate the realm's oceans, or these oceanic beasts are to blame. During the warm season, Therenor's southern coastline experiences torrential storms and cyclones, their destructive power bringing much-needed rains to the realm. Every so often, however, an unnaturally powerful and persistent cyclone will ravage Therenor's coasts, manifesting globally along any of the realm's shallows and lingering for weeks before retreating out to sea. More religious smallfolk believe these storms are actually mythical beings known as storm giants, powerful creatures made of lightning, summoned from the depths of Therenor's oceans as avatars of Sjobarden, great spirit of the sea and storms. Associated with the cycle of destruction and rebirth, the spirit's life-bringing waters support entire civilizations, but can just as quickly wash them away in a tidal wave of brine. These lingering cyclones, a testament to the spirit's power, they assault the shorelines, their manifestation a form of divine retribution against those unfortunate souls which invoke the wrath of the sea. Many citizens in harbor towns have either experienced or witnessed these horrifying cyclones before, and worship the spirit intently to remain in their good graces. Fishermen will nail the remains of their largest catch above their doors as a sign of gratitude towards Sjobarden, and windows are opened at the rise of dawn, welcoming the sea spirit into their homes along with whatever it may bring, a sign of trust and acceptance in the ever-turning wheel of death and rebirth. More devoted clerics and worshippers of the Great Spirit will make numerous visits to the famed salt temples of Sjobarden, a collection of once illustrious shrines along Therenor's southwestern coastline, which have since been corroded by the very sea they worship. These temples are cared for by salt priests, beings who claim to have been struck by the electrifying touch of a storm giant and were spared, with permanent fractal scars to prove it. Each year, Therenor's major port cities pay tribute to Sjobarden on a much larger scale. Building a ceremonial trading vessel, citizens fill the ship with food and goods, releasing it at the turn of the warm season unmanned towards the open ocean. By allowing the sea to destroy and reclaim its bounties, they hope to appease the spirit's destructive urges, avoiding its gaze for another year. The true destiny of these ships vary. For most, they are broken upon the ocean and consumed by the waves, their cargo lost for good. Some ships are commandeered by tide goblins, who set forth and terrorize the seas with their nautical shenanigans. In rare instances, some of these ships survive their pelagic journey, drifting along oceanic currents and crashing back into the shoreline elsewhere, months or years later, its molded, spoiled goods a grave omen for whoever's coast it washes upon. So do storm giants exist? And if they do, how much does the realm's smallfolk have correct? Like we've stated before, in Therenor, storm giants are often the focus of both myth and legend, their very existence heavily speculated among smallfolk. Not many alive can say they have for certain seen or spoken to a storm giant, and those few sailors and coastfolk who do are often written off as liars, charlatans, and madmen, the stories of their encounters unlike anything the realm has seen before. They're described as massive ctenophoric beings, with semi-translucent skin that glistened in vibrant shades of purples, pinks, blues, greens, and yellows. Truly enormous, they share a similar layout to a jelly, with a bell-like body that could reach lengths of 60 feet, though physically this body felt firm and rubbery, with a tough leather exterior like a tunicate. Below this bell, a swarm of powerful stinging arms, capable of generating lightning, trailed behind them hundreds of feet more. Their bodies shone with a dazzling array of colors, pulsating in repeating patterns the lengths of their bells and down their arms, illuminating themselves and the world around them. From their anterior was an outgrowth, featuring 8 gangly pariapods, or walking legs, as well as a vaguely humanoid face with bright, beady eyes. Just below it, another set of limbs, feathered, which are likely used to clean the face or filter seawater from microorganisms. The storm giant has been described in historical accounts as both nurturing and wrathful, guiding sailors through rough waters and obliterating ships with the touch of a tentacle. While some giants exhibited consistent compassion, most had moods which would ebb and flow like the tide, aiding in one moment and annihilating in the next. They were supposedly inquisitive beings, said to speak in impossibly deep rumbles and clicks, like rolling thunder which resonated through the body. Those who could feel these vibrations reported they could inexplicably understand them, like a form of telepathy. These vibrations also induced a soothing, euphoric feeling, and first-hand accounts report being incapable of speaking anything but the truth to the gargantuan being. The word most commonly used to describe their presence was divine, one sailor recalling an encounter which moved their crew to tears, as if they were visited by Sjobarden, the great spirit of the sea and storms themselves. Of course, many write these stories off as the ramblings of delusion-stricken sailors caught in a storm, yet with every new instance documented, the same details emerge. Even on clear skies, sailors have reported similar rumblings, voices whispering out to them from the sea. Many write these off as sirens, but they are mistaken, for hidden in the shallows of the realm's oceans, storm giants lie in wait. The storm giant most commonly encountered by smallfolk is only one stage of its life cycle. Much like the Nidarians they share so many features with, storm giants shift forms throughout their lives. Hatching from eggs and starting as small, fragile organisms no bigger than the palm of your hand, called planula, they traverse Therenor's shallows, looking for a suitable spot on the seafloor to settle before anchoring themselves in place. Feeding off free-floating zooplankton, algae, and detritus, they remain here for up to 20 years, growing in size and morphing into a polyp. Now standing around 6 feet in height, their once squishy bodies have since solidified, gaining mass and developing a hardened outer shell. They begin to form their swimming legs, a large, glistening, calcium-infused plume, and a nautiloid-esque headpiece. At this point, filter feeding in place is no longer enough to sustain their size. Emitting a series of deep rumbles, the storm giant polyp cries out, its call echoing through the sea. If the giant is lucky, it will be heard by any number of Therenor's oceanic denizens, from merfolk to tide goblins, the soothing, rapturous vibrations luring these beings to its location to care for it. Most commonly, though, storm giant polyps are tended to by the Stikmar, a race of semi-nomadic fish folk which travel from reef to reef among Therenor's shallows. At first look, this relationship may seem one-sided, but it's mutually beneficial. The storm giant is cared for by the fish folk, which provided both food and company, and in return the giant pacifies the seas around it with a steady hum, allowing its caretakers to hunt and gather food, and establish a village without fear of hostile creatures. Constant exposure to the vibrations of storm giants has had an effect on the Stikmar, however. They've developed a culture of brutal honesty, their true feelings exposed at all times. Even when out of range of a storm giant's influence, they find themselves incapable of lying. A giant may stay in this polyp form for up to 200 years, reaching heights of 16 feet before entering the final stage of its life cycle. With its hardened shell splitting in two, the Medusae stage of the storm giant emerges, its gargantuan size blooming outwards. The giant then makes its descent into the depths, its leftover shell becoming the foundation for a new reef, which exudes Therenor's primal energy. After centuries of sessile living, Medusae storm giants drift globally across Therenor's seas, following the ocean's gyres and currents, emitting their signature rumble as they travel, this time in search of a mate. Most years they are unsuccessful, the vastness of Therenor's seas working against them, though sometimes they do find another. Both giants will begin a conversation that could last for months, traversing the seas as they talk, their abyssal minds gauging whether or not the other will make for a good partner. Despite how sporadic and instinctual some storm giants may act, they are capable of deep, meaningful thought, making a stimulating partner one of their highest priorities. If they are both in agreement, the two will rise to the surface. In unison, they lift themselves out of the water, floating through the air with an unnatural lightness, a torrential cyclone forming as they circle one another. This act is a crucial one, as storm giants partner for life, never separating once stormbound. It's unknown just how long these perpetual storms, and to an extent Medusae storm giants, can live for, but some cyclones have been documented to rage on for hundreds of years. Giants have also been observed to be stormbound but alone, surrounded by a dark tempest which lashes out at the world around them. Likely giants that have once had a mate that has since passed away. As a stormbound pair, the two giants begin their voyage towards the nearest coastline to spawn. Approaching the coast, one giant releases eggs while another sperm, the eggs fertilizing within the storm wall and scattering in all directions. A stormbound pair can release millions of fertilized spawn over the course of a few months, the shallow waters offering the greatest chance of survival for their fragile eggs. When they are finished, the pair retreats from the coast, traveling back out to sea. Spawning storm giants keep Therenor's shallows alive, their eggs precious food for the realm's sea creatures. In addition to being a crucial food source, each egg is like a packet of pure, concentrated magic, a potent alchemical reagent wizards across Therenor are desperate to get a hold of, and hundreds of the realm's aspiring spellcasters brave the storms every year for a chance to collect this component. Virtually all storm giant eggs are either consumed or wash up along the realm's shorelines, but some lucky few do survive, hatching and rooting themselves to the seafloor, beginning the cycle once again. And that's Therenor's storm giants. I'm very happy with how their design turned out. As a former marine researcher, I was stoked to finally find a way to sample some of the unbelievable features found in our oceans to make a truly unique giant. A lot of inspiration was taken from the life cycle of jellies and how they pass through so many forms throughout their lives. And the storm giants' forms themselves reference a lot of our world's marine creatures. Things like sea slugs, shrimp, comb jellies, giant clams, and nautilus. I think we definitely hit our goals with this giant. Having them generate their own electricity through stinging arms, and tying their existence so closely with Therenor's great sea spirit, I really wanted Sjobarden to truly embody the ocean, necessary for life, but unpredictable and merciless, the small folk of the realm careful to treat every calm day as a blessing. The same thought process translated over to the storm giants, intelligent beings who, after a few centuries of polyp-induced immobilization, are finally given the freedom of choice, where they prove to be unpredictable forces of nature. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give us a like and a subscribe, and join us over on the Therenor Discord server, where we talk all things D&D, giant, and world building. We're over 600 strong and growing every day. As always, all of our speed paints in this video are made by Lee, who absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one. I could never make these videos without her, so make sure to let her know how fantastic of an artist she is. Now that all of the true giants have been covered in Therenor, our journey doesn't end here. There's still plenty more we can talk about. From giant kin to more of Therenor's unique races, to the culture of smallfolk cities, and an official in-depth video about the realm's religious system. If there's something you'd like to hear us talk about, leave a comment below. And stick around for a brief narrative recounting our narrator Mamrin's latest brush with these gargantuan giants. Sincerely thank you to everybody who's joined us on our journey so far. See you next time. Tomorrow, Gantil and I begin our voyage to the western coast of Therenor. Of all my apprentices to make this journey, she has been the most elated, and dare I say, most deserving. Whispers of a gargantuan storm in the deep ocean of the west has rippled through the continent, and any self-respecting wizard knows what this means. The jelly harvest will be ripe in the coming weeks. If I wished, I could have a basin's worth of these specimens for my supplier, but Gantil wishes to experience the mad rush for the things. The truth is, I'm quite curious if the freshness will make a difference in the potions they produce. She wishes to simply teleport to the site, But what kind of researcher would I be if I passed up a potential stone or frost giant encounter for the mere convenience of instant passage to our destination? It will be weeks, but in that time, perhaps the storm will pass. We are a day out from the coastline. The clouds have darkened as we approach, and their oppressive billowing has only worsened with time. I fear for the coastal communities here, as there seems to be no hope of this tempest dissipating. Despite this, I believe the amount of wizards that will be scavenging the shoreline to remain the same as if it were a gentle breeze. Yesterday, Gantil and I met the coast. The warm rain had washed over us like a blanket, soaking us to the bone. The jellies were plentiful, the specimen we sought after identified by its pearlescent glint, easy to miss while the eyes are barraged by water. Yet that stopped not us nor a single other alchemist on this shore. The storm is only a distance away now, and will close in the coming days. Yet the closer it approaches, my worries seem to gently drift away. I see the effect in Gantil too, who has adopted a soft sway to her step. A distant thought pervades that I must remain to investigate, but the feeling is warm, like a coming reunion of friends. What I recollect now is theory, but I must preface with the notion that this could be a groundbreaking and most life-defining discovery. 2 days ago, as the storm touched the coast, I experienced a surge of euphoria unlike anything I could describe. I awoke in the early morning awash with bliss, numb in the most delightful way. The terror I felt just an echo in the far reaches of my mind. I stood in the tempest as lightning thrashed and blasted in a large radius around our shelter. I understood the destruction, the death, and I took it as simple fact, held the thought close to me. As I gazed upward, I saw, for just a moment, a glimpse of where the beams converged. A creature, glittering in the dewy sunlight, the folds of it like the magnificent dressage of a queen. And then another, deep blue in color, gone as quickly as it appeared, as it tumbled through the skies. The urge to investigate further all but consumed me. But as I went to cast a flying spell, something stopped me. The thought was not my own, but I knew the depth of a bond, my chest humming with authority. I felt my throat tense with a feeling of significance, an ancient sense of instinct, something like love but not of any human kind filled my senses. These were storm giants. I simply knew it. I glanced down at my pouch, which held a handful of the little magic-infused specimens, and a wave of feeling washed over me once more. This time, a familiarity, pride, a distant melancholy. These were my children. No, they were theirs. Yes, these were not jellies. They were eggs of these extraordinary creatures. I ran to Gantil and found her knelt on the ground of the shelter, tears streaming from her face, yet a serene smile from ear to ear, eyes closed and head craned back. I couldn't resist the urge to stay, so I cast a small dome that kept us for the next few days through the tempest. By that time, the storm had washed over us, leaving us with just a pile of debris and a memory.